I have been in love with my girlfriend Sophia for 8 years, but 3 days before the wedding, I found that she had saved tens of thousands of photos of the same boy on her computer. At that moment, my world seemed to collapse. I secretly booked a flight to go abroad on the wedding day, quietly watched her perform as if nothing had happened, and waited for the wedding day to arrive. Finally, on the wedding day, the groom ran away, and she went crazy. The main text is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and subscribe. Mr. Robert, are there any vacancies left for the overseas branch you mentioned last time? I've made up my mind and I want to go, I said to my boss sincerely. When my boss heard that I agreed to go abroad for training, he responded with a relieved tone, "Okay, I will submit your information now. I told you a long time ago that men should still focus on their careers. But I heard that you are getting married soon." "It's okay, I'm not going to get married. Don't worry." I smiled bitterly, and my voice was trembling. In order not to let the other party notice, I hung up the phone. I was lost in thought as I stared at the tens of thousands of photos of boys on Sophia's computer. We both joined the same company after graduation, but we both worked in different departments. Tonight, Sophia went to a bachelorette party hosted by her bestie, and her phone was turned off. Her boss couldn't find her, and was anxious to get a plan, so he called me. So, when I opened Sophia's computer for the first time, I found these photos. In an instant, 8 years of memories flooded into my mind. Sophia was different from most girls. After being together for so long, she never had any photos of me on her phone, let alone any record of our relationship. No matter how humble I was, how much I begged, Sophia just said that we saw each other every day, and there was no need to keep any memories. It was not until this moment that I realized that it was not that it was unnecessary, but that I was not necessary to her. For 8 years, I have found all kinds of excuses for Sophia's indifference. I even often deliberately came home late, hoping that Sophia would call me to show her concern. But when I walked in the door in the early morning, I could only see her sleeping back. My stubbornness was really a joke. The words her best friend let slip when she found out we were getting married suddenly rang in my ears. "Okay, I thought you were going to live alone for the rest of your life because of David. If you really want to get married, it's not out of spite, right?" At that time, I didn't notice Sophia's embarrassed look, and I patted my chest and vowed, "We are doing this for love." Now I understand why her best friend asked this question, and I no longer have the confidence to say this. I took a few deep breaths, closed my computer, and opened my phone to break up with Sophia, but I saw that she hadn't even responded to the message I sent her a day ago asking her to pick a wedding dress. I clicked into my moments, and the background was pitch black, with no updates, and only an empty word under her profile picture. Wait. I pulled a bitter smile from the corner of my lips and fell weakly on the sofa. I didn't know that Sophia had someone else in her heart before. I just thought she was reserved and not good at expressing herself. Now I think about it, I was so naive. I asked Sophia many times about the introduction of the circle of friends, but she never answered. Now I finally know the answer. There are still 3 days until our simple wedding. I set the countdown as a dynamic wallpaper on my phone to remind myself every day. Looking at the ticking numbers on the screen, I rubbed my sore eyes and suppressed my fatigue. Just when I was about to book a plane ticket, Sophia's best friend called me and said, "James, Sophia is drunk. Why don't you come and take her back? I'll send you the address." I faintly heard Sophia's familiar voice calling David in the receiver. My heart was suddenly pulled up, and the other party immediately covered the phone and hung up. I shook my head, shook off the emotion I shouldn't have, changed my clothes and walked to the entrance, only to see that the half of the couple keychain I carefully selected, belonging to Sophia, was thrown casually on the cabinet. This was designed and customized by me from a handmade gift shop based on our experience. The internet said that no girl could refuse such a gift, but she said it was too childish and never wore it. After thinking for a while, I picked up the keychain and threw it into the trash can. I looked up and glanced at the coffee table. There was her unopened couple's mug, which seemed to be silently laughing at my one-man show. A feeling of impotence surged in my heart, and I picked up the trash can and threw all the couple's things into the bag. After throwing away the garbage, I took a taxi to the address her friends sent me. When I walked to the door of the private room, I heard a joking question from inside. "Why did David come back today? Did he regret it after hearing the news that Sophia was getting married?" I took a deep breath, pulled a smile on the corner of my lips, stretched out my hand and pushed the door open. The laughter inside stopped instantly, and everyone's face was embarrassed. The woman who was going to marry me in 3 days was leaning on another man's shoulder with tenderness and affection. I had just seen that man's face countless times on her computer. Sophia's best friend didn't expect me to come so quickly, and hurriedly reached out to pull her away from David. Unfortunately, Sophia seemed to have drunk a lot, and was completely indifferent, cursing incoherently, "Get out of the way, don't touch me." It was the first time I saw Sophia so drunk. Her best friend leaned over and whispered in her ear, "James is here to pick you up. Wake up, you're getting married soon." Seeing this, the others came forward to help, and with great effort, they finally pulled Sophia's hand away from David. She fell heavily onto the sofa, her face flushed. Her best friend then breathed a sigh of relief and introduced me. "This is our high school classmate David. He went abroad in his sophomore year and just came back today, just in time for our party. Sophia is drunk, don't think too much." If it were before, I might have lost control and asked them, knowing that Sophia and I were getting married soon and that Sophia had not let it go, "Why did you let David come? Why didn't you stop him?" But now I just smiled indifferently. David looked at me with a playful look in his eyes. It was not until Sophia's best friend started to introduce me and mentioned the word fiancé that Sophia, who had been silent on the sofa for a long time, said angrily, "It's a friend." In an instant, my hands clenched tightly under my sleeves, my palms were painful from being poked by my fingertips, and I was trembling slightly. The people around me changed their expressions and looked at me with embarrassment. This is not the first time that Sophia did not want to reveal my identity. I had already guessed our ending when she refused to post on WeChat moments, refused to appear together in the company, and refused to invite relatives and friends from both sides to the wedding. I just wanted to gamble with my 8-year relationship, but I still lost. I still forced a smile, nodded to David and said, "Hello, I'm Sophia's friend James. You're much more mature than in the photo." After I finished speaking, the room fell completely silent, and everyone looked at each other with different expressions. David smiled disapprovingly, bit a cigarette in the corner of his mouth, and reached for the fruit plate on the table. I remembered that Sophia never allowed me to smoke, and my pupils trembled. The moment David's hand touched the fruit plate, Sophia, who had just fallen, straightened up again and said with concern, "David, you are allergic to mangoes, you can't eat them." David's outstretched hand stopped in midair. He found her serious expression quite funny and said softly, "Why are you the same as you were 10 years ago, silly? This is watermelon, and you are drunk." At that moment, something seemed to explode in my mind, and the fragments pierced my heart. It turned out that Sophia was not unable to remember, but just didn't care about me. In the past 8 years, I have reminded her countless times that I am allergic to seafood and pollen. But Sophia's first choice for dates is always seafood restaurants, and sending flowers is a hard condition for dates. I was angry at the beginning, but later compromised. I carried allergy medicine with me, and even deceived myself that she was just too tired from work and couldn't think about other things. But today, reality woke me up again, and every detail revealed the fact that Sophia didn't love me. I helped her up from the sofa expressionlessly, and when we went downstairs to get a taxi, David chased after me. He looked at Sophia's face with a gentle but provocative look, smiling, and told me carefully, "Sophia can't drink well, and she is allergic to the ingredients in the hangover medicine. Go back and make her a cup of honey water. The water temperature should not exceed 60 degrees. She will be fine soon, otherwise she will have a headache when she wakes up the next morning." Sophia had never told me these things. I gritted my teeth and said nothing, turning around to get in the car. But he stopped me again and said, "By the way, how about I add your contact information? If she feels uncomfortable at night, you can ask me. Sophia will definitely not sleep well tonight after drinking. You have to keep an eye on her at night. If she kicks off the quilt, cover her immediately, otherwise she will definitely have a fever tomorrow." I pressed my nails so hard that they almost dug into my flesh. My pupils kept trembling. I stared at David's narrowed eyes for a long time, and finally nodded. We added each other as friends, and then I found that the background of his moments was a photo with Sophia. In the photo, the two of us 10 years ago were young and immature, with firm eyes and fingers tightly clasped. When I got in the car and the door closed, tears silently slid down my eyes. I used to only hear people talk about the power of childhood sweethearts, and I sneered at them, thinking that sincerity can always be exchanged for sincerity, but at this moment, my thoughts wavered. On the way, Sophia's phone vibrated several times. These were messages from David, asking if she had made it home safely. I unlocked the screen and wanted to reply politely, but I saw her chat history with her friend saying, "Fake marriage is my last chance. If he still doesn't come back, I'll really give up. Please post the news of my marriage in the class group, and don't tell anyone else." My finger on the screen paused, and I suddenly turned off the phone. I couldn't help but breathe faster, as if no matter how much I opened my mouth, oxygen couldn't enter my chest. Tears flowed down my eyes more and more violently. No wonder Sophia suddenly proposed to me 3 days ago. When I was completely unprepared, I wanted to give her a wedding ring, but she directly rejected my basic request. Sophia said it was not necessary to go through so much trouble, and only said don't tell your family. I thought that my efforts finally moved her, but I didn't expect that the wedding that I had been looking forward to for 8 years was just a bargaining chip for her to stimulate David to return to China. The last bit of reluctance in my heart towards this relationship was finally completely exhausted. I could only keep comforting myself that since I had decided to leave, everything about them no longer had anything to do with me. After arriving home, Sophia sobered up a bit and went to the bathroom to remove her makeup and wash up. I prepared honey water for her as David asked. In the last 3 days, I didn't want to leave any regrets for this relationship. As soon as I sat down on the sofa, my boss called me and asked me to hand over the work before I left. After I hung up the phone, Sophia's irritable voice suddenly rang out, "Leaving? Where are you going?" She wiped her wet hair with one hand and asked me expressionlessly. I handed her the honey water and said calmly, "It's okay, I'm just on a business trip." Sophia was too lazy to think about it, or maybe she didn't care about me at all. She took the cup and was about to drink it when she found that it was added with honey. Her eyebrows and eyes twisted instantly, and she asked me angrily, "Who did you learn this from? Don't look at it online for no reason. Things on the internet may not be suitable for everyone." She slammed the cup on the table and turned back to the bedroom. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. It turned out that my first love's method was not something I could imitate. The next day was originally scheduled for wedding photo shoots, but Sophia woke up and acted as if nothing had happened, and her attitude towards me was as cold as ever. But after seeing how affectionate she was with David, I would never think that she was like that by nature. When they were about to go out after finishing their meal, Sophia glanced at her phone and suddenly said, "Let's not take wedding photos in the park. Let's go to school. I see this is very popular online recently." I paused while cleaning the dishes and responded calmly, "Yeah, it's all right, I'll listen to you." I knew why Sophia changed her mind at the last minute, because David posted a circle of friends in the morning about missing his alma mater and going on a visit. I didn't expose her childish lie in person, just because I didn't want to embarrass myself when the relationship was about to end. There was only 1.5 days left before going abroad, and I wanted to save some dignity for both of us. Before I left the house, I had guessed what was going to happen today, so I didn't even bring my wedding dress. As a result, Sophia never asked a single question, let alone noticed. The photographer took us to the playground. Sophia looked up for a while and finally saw a familiar figure in the corner of the shade. Sophia didn't say hello to me. The next second she turned around and went to find David. I looked at the photographer, who was full of confusion, smiled sheepishly and said, "Sorry for making you come here for nothing. Let's stop here today. We will pay the money." I seldom wear leather shoes because my ankle was injured and the bones were deformed. I walked with difficulty at this moment. I finally walked to Sophia, who was smiling sweetly at David and talking to him. I was afraid that Sophia would catch a cold before leaving, so I handed her a coat, which she casually threw on the ground. The moment Sophia's eyes fell on me, her brows were obviously furrowed, as if she was afraid that I would let the cat out of the bag and expose our relationship in front of David. Sophia asked hurriedly, "Why are you here?" "I'm just chatting with my classmates." I was stunned, and then I smiled and said, "I have some unfinished business at the company, so I have to go back. I was planning to take some photos, so I didn't have my phone with me, so I could only come here to tell you." There was a flash of surprise in her eyes. In the past, I would have been upset, but this time I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be a nuisance in front of her. Her expression softened, and she nodded without saying anything. I turned around and walked away, my ankle twisted every time I walked. The voice next to me gradually became unclear. "Don't think too much about it. He just took an advertisement for a bridal shop and insisted on taking a photo with me." I didn't lie. After returning home, I was busy handing over work in the company all day. When I got home in the evening, Sophia unexpectedly prepared a meal for me. As far as I can remember, this was the first time she cooked for me. When she saw me come in, she immediately put away her phone and said with a somewhat unnatural expression, "You're back. Why are you so late today? The meal is ready. You looked thinner in your suit this morning." I paused for a moment and muttered to myself, "Have I lost weight?" It seemed that I had not eaten much since I saw those photos. At this moment, I saw the table full of greasy dishes, frowned, and said unnaturally, "You eat by yourself. I have no appetite, I'm going to rest." When I turned around, the wound on my ankle that was rubbed by my leather shoes was exposed to Sophia's sight. As soon as I entered the bedroom, she came to me with a medicine box. In my memory, this seemed to be the first time in 8 years that Sophia showed concern for me. Unfortunately, the wound has scabbed over and I no longer need her. I declined her offer. Sophia's face darkened. She walked out again, took a sandwich and put it beside the bed. She said to me softly, "I'm sorry, I really didn't expect him to go to school this morning. I've known him for so long, I can't just run into him without saying hello. Don't think too much about it. Before Sophia could finish, I glanced at the sandwich on the bedside table and interrupted her. I don't like this kind of fast food, have you forgotten? But she didn't care about it. After being together for so long, this was the first time I gave in and was rejected repeatedly. Sophia finally lost her good face and returned to her usual indifference. This time she turned around and left the room and didn't come back. In the early morning, my stomach growled. I got up and tiptoed to drink some water. Then I saw the faint light from her phone screen in the living room. The light shone on Sophia's face. Her fingers quickly pressed the keyboard, and her eyebrows were curved with a smile. I felt colder when I remembered that Sophia said that she never stayed up late to fight aging, so she didn't want to spend the New Year's Eve with me. I didn't go to get some water. I turned around and went back to my room. The last day was the day we had planned to get our marriage certificate. When I walked out of the room, Sophia was gone. No explanation, no message. I opened David's circle of friends as usual, and sure enough, I saw that he had posted a status about being hospitalized and receiving intravenous strips. How come you can't take care of yourself after being abroad for so long? You fell ill right after returning home. How can an adult get himself hospitalized when he clearly knows what the allergens are? I have no idea, and I don't want to waste time exploring. I spent a day packing my luggage, but Sophia still didn't show up in the evening. She only sent me a message saying she was working overtime. I looked at the 4 big words on the screen, full of sarcasm. Sophia didn't even bother to think about lying to me. That day, Sophia called her boss, who specifically said that in order to let her rest assured to take her wedding leave, she would not be assigned any work. I guess Sophia is working overtime in the hospital. In the early morning, the countdown on the wallpaper on my phone finally turned to 0. I spent the night on the sofa, and the next day I got up, washed up, and headed straight to the airport. On the way, I couldn't help but feel lucky that the wedding was fake and I didn't inform my family, otherwise I really don't know how to explain to my parents if I ran away from the marriage. When I entered the airport, I called Sophia to talk about the breakup. The phone rang once before she hung up. Then, she sent me a voice message with an extremely impatient tone. I'll be there soon. Why are you in such a hurry? I said I'd have a wedding. Can't I just run away? David was discharged from the hospital early to attend the wedding, and he got into a car accident on the way. Can you understand? Keep my friends calm first. I have something to tell you today. After the voice message ended, I typed on the keyboard expressionlessly and sent a text message to Sophia. Let's break up. You guys should have the wedding. Without waiting for her reply, I blocked and deleted her contact information, set my phone to flight mode, and boarded the plane. During the 10-hour flight, I closed my eyes for half of the time and thought of the 8 years Sophia and I had spent together. We had loved each other for so long that loving her seemed to have become a habit. Our sudden separation was as hard to part with as if we were blood relatives. The moment I set foot on foreign land, I had the illusion that I was in another world, as if everything could start over again. As soon as I turned on my phone, the first call I received was from the wedding company, which was frantic. Mr. James, is your wedding still going on? The few guests have all left, and we have never encountered such a situation before. The bride didn't show up at the wedding, and the groom was nowhere to be seen. We called Miss Sophia to tell her about the situation, and when she heard that you didn't show up, she got so angry that she hung up the phone. It took us a lot of effort to contact you. My hand holding the phone froze in midair. I hailed a taxi while saying calmly, then let's not do it. I've already paid the balance and your work is done. Thank you for your hard work. I hung up the phone and got in the car. On the way, I couldn't stop feeling bitter. The last bit of hope in my heart, the extravagant hope that Sophia would go crazy when she saw me missing, was completely shattered. Forget it. Sophia even broke her promise at the wedding, so what if she knew I ran away from the marriage? I rushed downstairs according to the apartment address given by my boss. Just as I was about to go upstairs with my luggage, Sophia's best friend called again. I thought that we had broken up and there was no need to contact her best friend in the future. I should make things clear. I hesitated for 2 seconds before pressing the answer button. Sophia's extremely angry voice rang out from the other side. James, what's wrong with you? Who gave you the guts to block my number? Where have you been? Speak. Didn't I explain to you? David had a car accident. I just have something to do here and can't leave. Can you please stop making trouble? Didn't you go to the wedding today? Where are you now? Send me the address. I frowned and said coldly, didn't you see the message I sent you? We have broken up, and where I go has nothing to do with you. I have also blocked your bestie's number, so don't contact me anymore. I didn't expect Sophia to be absent from the wedding first, and she even had the nerve to call me to ask for an explanation. Before she could speak again, I hung up the phone and added this number to my blacklist. I walked into the apartment building, dragged my luggage to the elevator, and simply tidied the room. I just relaxed and sat on the sofa to rest when my boss called me. On the phone, my boss asked with obvious concern in his voice, "James, didn't you tell your wife that you were going abroad?" "She just called me to ask about it." It sounded like she was almost going crazy. "Sophia was about to call the police, and I told her your address abroad." My breath hitched, and I sighed into the phone, and responded calmly, "Forget it, it's okay, just say it. There's no way she'll really come to see me. By the way, Sophia and I are not married, so she has nothing to do with me in the future." My boss seemed to understand something from my brief words. In the end, he just reminded me not to let personal issues affect my work and then hung up the phone. I ruffled my hair in annoyance and clicked on the blocked blacklist message on my phone, only to see her number all over the screen. In the 8 years we've been together, the number of times Sophia has contacted me is less than today, which is ridiculous and ironic. Maybe Sophia didn't want to make it too embarrassing for her simple wedding to have two main characters absent at the same time. I finally had time to open the photo album and clean up the photos I had secretly taken of her. I slid my fingers along the screen and seemed to fall in love with her all over again. When the photos were completely deleted, I stood up from the sofa and walked downstairs to buy a bottle of whiskey and cigarettes. When we were together, Sophia hated the smell of alcohol and cigarettes, so no matter how sad I was, I could only stare out the window, or she would throw me out of the house along with the alcohol and cigarettes. After the breakup, I regained my freedom, and now, as if I was angry, I filled my cup and drank it all. The smoke flowed along the corners of my lips, and my consciousness gradually blurred due to the alcohol. I opened David's moments out of habit, and saw that he had updated another post 8 hours ago. 8 hours ago, that was when the wedding had just started. In the picture, a familiar wrist is lazily placed on the side of the hospital bed, with the caption, "When you are with me, I feel like I own the whole world. I finally don't have to pretend to be an adult anymore." My tears immediately overflowed from my eyes, a sneer appeared on the corners of my lips, and I typed a line of words with trembling hands. I made a mistake and deleted it, and typed it again. After a while, he added a sentence in the comment area, "You won, your whole world, I will give it back to you." I deleted his contact information and put an end to this relationship. The second after I turned off my phone, I fell on the sofa and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, the alarm rang and I went to work with red and swollen eyes. It was my first day in contact with the overseas branch. I was so busy that I had no time to think about Sophia. It was much easier to give up a wrong relationship than I thought. I didn't receive any calls from China anymore. I thought our relationship was over, but when I got off work, I saw a familiar figure downstairs of a foreign company. Sophia turned her back to the company gate, clutching her phone, and asked impatiently, "His condition has recurred and the wound has been infected. Go find a doctor." "I'm not a doctor. I have other things to do here. Isn't it more convenient for him to be hospitalized and call someone than for me to go there? Besides, how can a grown man be so pretentious?" "Okay, don't call me first if you don't have anything to do." I glanced at her and walked around her without stopping, preparing to go back to the apartment. But after taking 2 steps, I heard hurried footsteps, and before I could run, Sophia grabbed my wrist. Sophia looked at me with red eyes and asked, "Why didn't you tell me you were going abroad? Was it because I took David to the hospital? Didn't I already explain it to you? Can you please stop making a fuss? Why did you empty out all the things in the house? That's our home. Don't I have the right to know?" I thought I was brave enough, but when I met her again in a foreign country and heard her blaming words, my dry eyes started to ache again. I shook off Sophia's hand, turned to look at her and said, "Tell you? Why should I tell you? Tell you what? Tell you that I saw thousands of photos of David in your computer, or that I saw you using the wedding as a bargaining chip to spur David to return home?" Sophia, who had been catching a flight all night, looked the most haggard I had ever seen her look, with bloodshot eyes. This seemed to be the first time she went out without makeup. If it were in the past, I might have been so soft-hearted that I would have given up the opportunity to go abroad and go home with her without her asking. But this time, when I looked into Sophia's helpless eyes, I couldn't feel any sympathy or heartache. Sophia's anxious expression froze on her face. She obviously didn't expect me to look at her computer. Her first reaction was to question me, "You touched my computer? Didn't I tell you that all the information on it was work? Who told you to look at it? Don't I have any privacy?" Sophia realized that she was too emotional. She took a deep breath and was about to explain. I sneered and said, "You were busy having a single night, busy crying in David's arms, and your boss couldn't contact you and was anxious to get the information. He called me. Do you think I want to see it? I feel disgusted when I see it. This was the first time in 8 years of our relationship that I gave Sophia the cold and resolute attitude. Sophia thought I was jealous and making a fuss, so when she spoke again, her tone softened and she said in a flattering tone, "I can explain what was in the computer. It was just that it was stored too long and I forgot to delete it. As for the wedding, he dumped me before, and you know that. I just said that in front of my friends to save face, but I didn't expect you to misunderstand me. Believe me, from the moment I said I wanted to marry you, he was no longer in my heart. I took care of him just out of friendship. It just so happened that he returned to China, and I also wanted to put an end to the past." To me, Sophia's explanation just sounded like an excuse for her behavior. The sneer on my lips deepened, and I said sarcastically, "Really? Sophia, are you trying to say that you dated me for 8 years when you hadn't let go of the past? What am I? A broom to clean up your past memories? Since you gave up on me and chose him countless times, there is no need to explain. Your behavior is the best answer. Don't you want to laugh at what you are saying now? You are not afraid that I will be sad, disappointed, or leave, so why are you here now? Do you want to listen to me break up in person?" Sophia's face turned pale as I questioned her. She opened her mouth but couldn't utter a word. When I turned around and prepared to leave, she slowly said, "I can delete the things in the computer now. If I say that I was shaken at first, but when I heard that you didn't go to the wedding, I already knew my feelings. Now I come to save the relationship, can you give me another chance?" I didn't look back or say anything, and walked away with firm steps under Sophia's expectant eyes. This time she didn't stop me. Can I give this relationship another chance? I asked myself this question countless times after David appeared. I also gave her countless chances, but the result was obvious. I never want to repeat the same mistake again. I went back to my apartment and washed up briefly. There was a knock on the door. I opened the door and bumped into a huge insulated lunchbox. Sophia's sunny smile appeared from behind. She said gently, "I heard that food abroad is hard to swallow. I made it specially for you. Try it while it's hot." This was the first time Sophia smiled so happily in front of me, and it was also the second time she cooked for me. I was a little dazed for a moment, and then I slammed the door when I came to my senses. Unexpectedly, she was not angry and continued to knock on the door patiently. I slid down weakly behind the door and reached out to mess up my hair. "Why did you wait until we broke up to love me? I don't need you anymore." Sophia knocked for half an hour, and I sat on the floor for half an hour. I heard the bell ringing outside the door, and it seemed that the hospital called again. She ran out of patience and her voice became irritable, and she roared angrily, "Didn't I tell you that if he is sick, he should go to the doctor? The car accident was not caused by me, and my wedding was ruined. I really have something important to do now." The person on the other end kept talking to her for a long time. Then footsteps were heard and it became completely quiet outside the door. I got up and opened the door, only an insulated lunchbox was left on the ground. Sure enough, I couldn't win him over even if I ran away from him, but I didn't want him anymore. I threw the lunchbox into the trash can, took out my phone and ordered takeout. I thought Sophia would buy a ticket and return home immediately after receiving this call. But I didn't expect that the next day when I went downstairs, I saw her waiting at the door again, holding a new lunchbox in her hand. She smiled at my face and said, "Didn't you say you couldn't get used to the food abroad?" I glanced at her and tried to pretend I hadn't seen her and leave, but she followed me. Sophia said to me coquettishly, "Then I'll take you directly to your company and get to know the way. I'll also take you to lunch at lunchtime." Hearing this, I stopped dead in my tracks. I turned around and said, "Sophia, do you find it enjoyable to act out a sentimental scene? When I was in China, I worked overtime until the early morning countless times just to ask you to open the door for me to receive a takeaway. What did you say that you forgot? You said that other boys also live this way, and they just left the takeaway at the door. It's not safe for you as a girl to be at home. You said that I didn't consider you when I ordered a takeaway in the early morning. You have your own things to do." After I finished speaking, Sophia's pupils trembled, but I continued, "Now I have my own things to do, please leave and don't bother me again." I walked to the side of the road and hailed a car. As soon as I opened the door and got in, Sophia got in. She said anxiously, "I admit that I was not qualified as your girlfriend before. Can you give me a chance to make up for it now? I don't want us to break up just because of a misunderstanding." I didn't want to waste time with Sophia anymore, so I closed my eyes and rested. On the way, Sophia's phone rang and turned off, and then turned off and rang again. I said angrily, "Can you mind your own business? Don't show up in front of me. We've already broken up, what's the point of doing this? Your sweetheart is in China, not here." As I finished speaking, the car arrived downstairs of the company. I got out immediately and closed the door without giving her a minute. After entering the elevator, he took out his cell phone and called Sophia's boss. Sophia is not married, why can she take a wedding leave? Doesn't the company have any work for her to do? Can you let her go back quickly? The other party hesitated for a while before explaining. Sophia is on annual leave, there is nothing I can do. I hung up the phone in annoyance. For the next week, Sophia was around me like a ghost. I have to say that human habits are terrible things. It only took a few days for me to go from being angry at first to being indifferent later. On the 7th night, the landlord of the apartment called me and said that someone upstairs complained that Sophia was disturbing the neighbors. Neighbors in the community saw Sophia often appearing at my door, so they asked the landlord to ask me if she was my friend. I was full of doubts, and after asking, the landlord said that Sophia had set up a tent downstairs of the apartment building and kept the lights on all night. Whenever a girl entered my building, she would rush up to ask for the house number to confirm whether it was for me. Many people in the apartment building have already quit because of this. I hurriedly got up from the sofa and ran to the balcony, and sure enough, I saw a glaring light in a small tent downstairs. I pulled Sophia's number off the blacklist and called her to ask for a long time. She finally spoke slowly. I was worried that it would be unsafe for you to live alone. I came here temporarily and haven't found a house to rent in this building yet, so I'm just living downstairs. By the way, I have good news for you. I've already applied to the company and secured a place for our department to go abroad for training. Sophia couldn't hide the excitement in her tone, just like me when I was looking forward to the future when we were in love. But I didn't have any extra emotions. I just said I got it and hung up the phone. I couldn't sleep that night. It started to rain heavily outside in the early morning, and my heart felt like it was being pulled apart. I went to the balcony and looked down, but I couldn't see her position clearly in the dim light. I climbed into bed in annoyance, covering my ears and forcing myself to rest. The next day when I went to work, the rain had stopped and the sky was as gloomy as if the end of the world had come. There was no one at the place where she usually waited for me. I paused for a moment, suppressed the disappointment in my heart, and took a taxi to work. It was rare that I didn't receive any messages from her harassing or asking for reconciliation throughout the whole day. It started to rain heavily outside when I got off work, and I waited for an hour before I got a taxi. I didn't expect that the heavy rain affected my vision, and the driver couldn't see the traffic lights clearly when passing an intersection, and was hit by a car rushing out from the side and overturned on the spot. The huge impact caused my internal organs to shatter. In an instant, I felt the coming of death. I tried to call for help from the driver with a weak voice, but there was no response for a long time. Then I realized that he was dying. The heavy rain kept washing the broken glass of the car window, and my cries for help were drowned in the sound of the rain. The blood in my body flowed freely through the wounds, my body temperature dropped rapidly, and when I was fuzzy, the only person I thought of was Sophia. Fortunately, my phone was inside my clothes. I used my last bit of strength to force myself to press the emergency contact button, and the phone automatically dialed Sophia's number. It happened 3 times in a row, but she didn't answer until the ringing stopped. My tears flowed into the rain and I completely lost consciousness. When she woke up again, she was taken to the ward by a Chinese girl who was driving by. Sophia was standing by the bed with a pale face, her face was bloodless and looked so pitiful. I closed my eyes and didn't want to look at her anymore. She looked flustered and said in a trembling voice, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you called me, my phone was out of battery and turned off. I just rushed over from China, David." David was given a critical illness notice, and he said he wanted to see me one last time. I frowned and said weakly, "What does it have to do with me? We have already separated. It is your freedom to go and see who you want. I have brought this upon myself again. I have to learn a bloody lesson before I am willing to believe that I have no place in her heart." The pain from the broken ribs made my forehead sweat, and she reached out to wipe it for me. I just said coldly, "Get lost. Let's stop here, don't show up in front of me in the future, go find David." Sophia finally realized that she was going to lose me forever, and she said hurriedly, "I've already gone back to check. I didn't expect that he would use this to deceive me. I will never trust him again. I've already made it clear to him that he and I have nothing to do with each other in the future. Is it important?" There was no emotion in my voice and I looked at her as if she were a stranger. The emotions in Sophia's eyes gradually cracked, and she opened her mouth to explain, but she had no words. She looked at me pleadingly and said, "Please trust me just once, James." I frowned, endured the pain in my chest as I breathed, and said, "Sophia, we're over, completely, forever. Don't make me hate you." Her pupils trembled, and the hand she stretched out to me froze in midair. She met my eyes full of hatred and finally stopped talking. After a few minutes of stalemate, she was completely defeated and turned to leave the ward. Her figure seemed to disappear from my life, except for the lunch that was delivered to the ward door on time every day. After I was discharged from the hospital, I returned to the company. When I passed by her department, she was busy writing a plan. We became the most familiar strangers in this company, and even communication at work had to rely on emails. For a whole year, Sophia thought she hid it well, but I could still notice that the look in her eyes looking at me in the meeting was getting hotter and hotter as time passed. Until a bunch of roses made of colored paper were delivered to my desk, she rushed to me and questioned me like crazy. I looked at Sophia's crazy face for love, which was exactly the same as mine a few years ago. But I just said calmly, "Well, we are in love. I will send you an invitation when we get married. You are the one who saved me in the rainstorm that day." She said that boys are also worthy of love and care. She will remember that I am allergic to pollen and all my habits. After hearing this, Sophia left in dismay. The next day, the company announced that Sophia had completed her training and returned home. This is our best ending. On that day, my girlfriend and I discussed the date of the wedding. This time I want to be a happy groom and start a new chapter of life with someone who truly loves me. In the days to come, I believe that I will be cherished, and I will also cherish her who only has eyes for me. The past 8 years with Sophia have finally become memories. Although there are pains, it has also made me learn to grow up and understand what true love should look like.